Business opportunities there in Vietnam. Back to business now. Stephen is back with us here on set. You're starting in France, though, aren't you, Stephen? Tax cuts on the way here, apparently. But taxpayers, they're not all celebrating, are they?
This is something that the French government has been flagging for a couple of weeks. There would be tax cuts on the way in 2017, but it appears that the amount of those cuts will be less than had been expected. The total figure will, according to reports, be around €1 billion, almost half of what some previous reports had been suggesting. Now, Prime Minister Manuel Valls says that's down to slower than expected economic growth. Details of the tax cuts are expected to be announced by President Hollande tomorrow. The reduction will come, of course, ahead of next May's presidential election. In an interview on French radio, Manuel Valls admitted that taxes had risen by too much between 2010 and 2014, but it was now time for them to come down.
There will be some compromises, first on the level of growth. On another objective, which is to get a handle on our deficits, we've taken action. Economy and Finance Minister Michel Sapin has taken action, and our deficits must get under 3%. The figure we're aiming for is 2.7%.
Let's take a look at what's happening on the markets for you next. And we're seeing a mixed picture in Asia today. Gains on the Chinese markets after the Beijing government announced that they would be doing more to boost the economy, particularly to encourage bank lending. And also in less positive news in Japan. The Nikkei in Tokyo down by about 0.5%. That's as the yen strengthened against the dollar. That's hurting exporters and making their goods more expensive. That currency change coming on the back of a survey of the services sector in the United States, which actually weakened the dollar, thus making the yen stronger.
Let's bring in the latest now in the controversy over the former EU Commission President's new job at Goldman Sachs, I'm sure you'll remember.
The European Ombudsman Emily O'Reilly has warned that the uproar over Jose Manuel Barroso taking a job with the investment bank has shaken public trust at a very challenging time for the European Union. She's written to the Commission saying the case has called into question whether the current rules for former EU officials are fit for purpose. Mr. Barroso has been the subject of an online petition apparently started by EU employees saying that his pension should be withdrawn after he took up a job as non-executive chairman with Goldman Sachs. Emily O'Reilly in her letter says this is a significant public interest issue and must be openly and comprehensively addressed by the Commission. Under the current rules, former commissioners are allowed to take up new positions after 18 months from when they leave their EU roles. Well, some more of the day's business headlines for you next. The French carmaker Renault expects to phase out the use of diesel engines in the majority of its European cars, according to reports. Company sources telling the Reuters news agency that tougher emission standards in the wake of the Volkswagen scandal would make diesel technology too expensive. More than 60% of the Renault cars sold in Europe last year were diesel models. Meanwhile, lawyers for Volkswagen have walked out of a court case in Ireland over the emissions cheating scandal. The case is being taken by an Irish motorist who believes she may have to pay more in road tax as a result of the incorrect emissions data given by her Volkswagen car. The carmaker's legal team walked out after the judge ruled the case could go ahead, saying the proceedings were unfair and inappropriate. The South Korean messaging service Line is launching a mobile network in Japan. The service aims to provide low-cost smartphone packages with unlimited data usage for the Line app. The company's hoping it will increase smartphone use in Japan, where only half of mobile phone users have a smart device.
Let's go to Italy for our next story. The private sector is buying into the country's rich cultural legacy.
Maintaining and restoring cultural sites in Italy is a huge drain on public money. As the Italian government has been trying to get its finances in order, it's now asking the private sector to step in to help with this costly activity. Emerald Maxwell has the story.
Michelangelo's David attracts millions of visitors every year. But the cost of looking after Italy's cultural treasures is starting to weigh on the country's government. Now museums and historical sites are looking to the private sector for help.
The extent of Italy's estate, the demanding criteria of restoration, of safeguard, of maintenance, all these things require resources. So private resources, crowdfunding, private donations, donations by companies, patronages, all these will integrate public funding.
Museum officials were in Florence to discuss their options and meet potential sponsors.
Well, I came just to see what are the possibilities, and there is a lot of things to be discussed and to be negotiated. And we have the interest in many things.
But wooing big business is new to Italy's culture sector. The director of the Peggy Guggenheim collection said that the public museums might have difficulty keeping donors happy.
They just don't have the kind of liberty to dedicate themselves 7 days a week to the friendship, to the needs, to the requirements of this relationship with companies.
But they will have to find the time, as incidents like the August earthquake in central Italy put particular strain on the heritage budget. This summer, fashion house Fendi sponsored the restoration of Rome's Trevi Fountain, a significant success for private-public partnerships.
Beautiful images of Italy there. Now, finally, a word on a very big event in the business world later. It is the expected unveiling of the new iPhone, much anticipated as ever.
Yeah, it's hard to avoid talking about this. It is going to be a new product coming at a difficult time for the world's most valuable listed company. iPhone sales finally started to fall this year after continuous growth since the product was first launched back in 2007. Apple will be hoping that the iPhone 7 reverses that trend. The new phone is expected to be more of an update to the iPhone 6 than a dramatically different model. That's a change from the way that Apple's approached this in the past, where on even-numbered years they've tended to announce bigger innovations. Now, the innovations being rumoured to be included on the iPhone 7 are an improved camera and the possibility that the headphone jack might disappear. So people will be able to use wireless headphones or use the charging port to plug in their headphones instead.
Okay, I wonder what number we'll eventually get up to.
iPhone 360.
Exactly, you never know. It is a possibility. You never know. Could be around for a long, long time to come. Thank you, Stephen. See you with Business on France 24.